Well, what do we have here? This is the Asus GL502VMK, and this is, for many of you, not a new laptop. This is the one just about every Best Buy in the world has on display. This is the Kaby Lake version. It's got an i7 processor. I think this is the 7700HQ. This one comes standard with 12 gigs of RAM, which is kind of a bummer for a specific reason. And it also comes with a terabyte 7200 RPM drive, which I immediately replaced with an SSD that I got for cheap, and it's got the Nvidia GTX 1060 in it, so this is a true gamer. And we'll go into some of the details, show you what's inside it, etc. as we go through this. As far as the ports go, as you can see on this side, you've got your Kensington lock to the right. You've got an SD card slot, which I still like having that around. You've got your fancy smancy orange Asus USB inputs, and then you've also got your headphone jack too. On the other side, you've got your plug-in for your AC adapter, which I love, the right-angled plug-ins, which are great. And next to that, you've got an Ethernet thing, which is kind of cool if you like to go wired. There's a DisplayPort HDMI, another USB port, and also a USB-C Thunderbolt port too. The chassis on this Asus GL502 is kind of an aluminum thing, or if you live across the pond, aluminium. Love when some of the guys say that. As you can see, this thing shows fingerprints like crazy. So if you're a forensic expert, you could probably pull my fingerprints off this thing. But it is a comfortable chassis. It's not too thick, and I personally like it. The bottom of the laptop is kind of a pseudo-plastic, and I mean that in a good way. I kind of prefer that to some of the aluminum options, because aluminum or any of the metal chassis tend to get pretty hot on your lap, and I'm looking at you, MSI, GS63s and 73s. This plastic chassis doesn't really get too hot when it's sitting on your lap, and I like that. If you want to get inside to do any upgrading or just poking around, you've got 10 screws to get past. There's 4 on the top, there's 2 on the sides, there's 4 on the bottom. You do a little bit of prying and voila, you are inside. The inside of the GL502 is interesting. This comes standard with 12 gigs of RAM, which I hate. There's 8 gigs on the opposite side of the motherboard from what you're seeing. Then there's 4 gigs on the side that you can access. The good news is if you throw an 8 gig stick in there, you can have your RAM working in dual channel mode and bump this up to 16. If you want to go any bigger than that, though, you're going to have to disassemble the entire motherboard on the inside of this laptop, which is a real pain unless you're adept at that kind of thing. But I did swap out the 7200 RPM terabyte drive that came with this Asus and put in my own 960 PNY SSD, which is actually pretty good. You have access to things. It's not that things aren't accessible, it's just that I wish they had arranged the RAM in a little different way. The panel on this Asus laptop is an IPS screen. It's model number LGD046F, in case you're wondering. And if that sounds familiar, that's actually a model we have found in a lot of the laptops we've looked at here over the past few months. The screen on this Asus laptop is very vibrant. In case you're wondering, this does not have the Intel video card. There's no Optimus present because this is a G-Sync screen, which means you're going to be messing around with your color settings using the Nvidia control panel. And I do tend to kick the digital vibrance up higher than most people messing around in Nvidia because I like the brighter colors and I'm not really as concerned with the accuracy. But if accuracy is a big deal to you and or battery life, then you're probably going to want to look elsewhere other than this laptop. One of the big plus sides for this laptop for me is it is a G-Sync model. That's going to smooth out a lot of gameplay issues if you've got games that tend to vary wildly as far as their frame rates, at least to my eyes. I prefer the G-Sync screens, but again, you can always disable it in the Nvidia control panel if that's not your situation. As you can see, this is a red backlit keyboard. There are different degrees of brightness. I tend to run it pretty bright because I like red. That's just me. The tactile feedback of the keyboard is good. I can actually pretty much fly on this thing as far as typing and doing the stuff that I got to do. But this is one of those things that's real easy to see if you like it or not because almost every Best Buy I've ever been in has this model out on display so you can mess around with it. I want to do a firmware run for a couple of reasons. First of all, I want you to see how obviously the GPU handles monitoring and regulating the heat and all the thermals, and I also want you to kind of get an idea of what, as much as you can through a YouTube video, of what the fan noise is like. Somebody on one of our previous videos made a perfect observation, and that is fan noise is extremely subjective. For one person, what may be loud may not be a big deal to somebody else. In other words, if you use headphones when you game, the fan noise is not an issue. You don't care probably. But for some people, fan noise is a make or break thing. So I'm going to run Furmark. I'll try to be quiet temporarily and kind of give you an idea of how the fans do ramp up. And they do ramp up quite a bit on this model. This is kind of how it handles everything. And here we go. This has been running for a couple of minutes now. It looks like it's kind of plateauing out at a max of about 73 degrees Celsius, which isn't bad. I will say, to my skin, when this is sitting in my lap and I'm gaming on it, it does get warm underneath. Not unpleasantly so, not so much that I feel like I got to go grab a laptop tray or anything, but it is warm. And again, the whole best case scenario for you is go into a Best Buy and see if they'll let you do something 3D on this thing so you can see if the keyboard area and or the bottom gets too warm for your pleasure. As for me, this is completely within the zone that's acceptable to me. And to me, again, for a laptop running a 1060 Nvidia card, 73 degrees Celsius is not bad at all. Okay, this is the Ghost Recon Wildlands benchmark, which I like to run. It's set to run 1920 by 1080. As you can see, settings very high, including anti-aliasing and everything pretty much on, so I can show you what, not only what this will do as far as the video card performance is, but also how the fans operate on this thing, and also what the sound is like on this laptop. Right around 54 frames per second, and a couple of observations. First of all, you notice the GPU temp in the bottom right only got up to around 80, which is pretty decent. And you also might remember we had some problems with throttling on the previous Asus GL502 model we looked at. None of that now. And this is running a new BIOS, by the way, which I will show you here in a few. I will show you a little Sniper Elite 4 gameplay to kind of give you an idea of what this thing will do in the real world.
See if I can locate the partisan HQ.
See if we can part this Nazi's hair. That'll work. And we can expect the other Nazi scum to come flying up this staircase here. Hello. Surprised the other bozos didn't come running. Try to cause some trouble so you can kind of get some action on the screen. As you can see, this laptop does a great job with this game. Actually, it does a great job with all the games I've tried so far, but this gives you just a little bit of an idea. Okay, now I'm showing you something I don't normally show you. I'm showing you the BIOS on this Asus GL502VMK. And the reason I normally don't bother with this, first of all, it's super technical stuff. And a lot of times, unless you're an advanced user, you don't have a lot of business being in the BIOS. But I'm showing you this one because Asus has what they call the Easy Mode BIOS, which gives you a lot more visuals. As you can see, I'm running BIOS version 302, which came out from Asus. I think this was early in July. Got it directly from the Asus website. Duh. But it gives you some visual ideas of how your CPU's doing, you know, battery health, all that sort of good stuff. You can change your boot priority, among other things. And I'm purposely not showing you my serial number because I'm just not showing you my serial number. But it is kind of a neat visual thing. It's an extra little thing that Asus does. I personally like it. You may or may not. For many of you, you are ultra familiar with this laptop. If you've wandered into a Best Buy recently, this is the one almost every single store has on display. It's not new. It is Kaby Lake. But the one thing I will say, my observation, I had some problems in the past with throttling on some of these Strix laptops from Asus. This one I've had no problems whatsoever. It's been like butter. And again, I'm running the latest BIOS, the 3.02 from Asus. I'm not sure if that is the difference maker, but I've had nothing but good experiences with this laptop. I got it for the crazy low price of $9.99 new during Best Buy's Black Friday thing they did. I think they were trying to compete with the Amazon Prime thing. But if you can come across this laptop anywhere close to this dollar amount, I would highly recommend it. I was originally trying to budget game on the Dell Inspiron 7000 series laptop. This screen is infinitely better than that. You get G-Sync, you get an i7 processor compared to an i5. It's just light years beyond. You get the 1060 over the 1050 Ti, by the way, too. For me, this has been light years better than the Dell Inspiron that I tried last. I'm very happy with this, and again, I've had no stability problems. Everything seems to run cool. So far, so good. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll answer them as fast as I can. I know this is not going to be the laptop of choice for a lot of people. You can do a lot better if you can kick up your budget by $500 or $600. But if you're like me and you're gaming on a dime, this is a good option, especially if you can find a good open box model or find it on sale or something like that. I think it sells new for $1249 from places like Best Buy. And again, you get it for cheaper than that, I think you could really get a steal. Leave your questions in the comments. I'll answer them as quick as I can. As always, thanks for the support, and we'll talk at you soon.